My name is Elena Carver, I'm 29, and my stepmother tried to erase me from my father's will, only to be destroyed by his own secret recording. If you've ever faced something like this, comment where you're reading from. On Monday at 11:05, inside a wood-paneled conference room at a law firm on Michigan Avenue, I sat at a polished table that smelled faintly of lemon polish and stale coffee. The overhead lights buzzed, their white glare bouncing off thick stacks of documents. My hands were cold against the leather armrest of the chair. Across from me, she adjusted her pearl earrings, lips curved in a rehearsed smile. My stepmother had arrived 15 minutes early, whispering with her attorney, sliding glossy folders across the table as if victory were already hers. The will reading began formally. The lawyer, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, cleared his throat and read the opening clauses. My stepmother's eyes gleamed when my name didn't appear in the first list of beneficiaries. She leaned slightly forward, pen tapping, and finally said, loud enough for the room to hear. Mr. Carver was clear. Elena is not included. The estate belongs to me. Her words sliced the air. I felt my stomach lurch, though I'd braced myself for weeks. $3. $4 million in assets, our family house, stocks, and a lakeside cabin were at stake. The lawyer didn't flinch. Instead, he reached slowly for a black envelope at the edge of his briefcase. It was labeled in my father's neat handwriting. Play if Margaret contests. He placed it on the table, the room falling into silence except for the soft tick of the wall clock. I didn't know yet that in less than 5 minutes, my father's voice from beyond would rip her story apart. The lawyer slid the black envelope closer, but before he could open it, my stepmother leaned forward, her manicured nails tapping the table in quick rhythm. At dinner last week, she said sharply, we agreed this would be quick. Elena knows her father left her nothing. We don't need theatrics. Her attorney nodded and pulled a stapled packet from his briefcase. I caught the heading in bold. Reallocation agreement. My pulse spiked. What is that? I asked. Her lawyer cleared his throat. Mrs. Carver requests immediate confirmation that the entirety of the estate transfers to her. It avoids delays, probate challenges, and ensures the assets, valued at $3.4 million as of March 2nd, remain intact. The fluorescent lights buzzed louder in my ears. I steadied my voice. You expect me to sign away everything? Without even hearing the will? She smirked, pearl earrings glinting. Your father knew who was really there for him. You weren't. I glanced at the thick envelope still resting under the lawyer's hand. My father's handwriting, steady and unmistakable, was right there. Play if Margaret contests. The lawyer finally broke the tension. Before anyone signs anything, this office will follow Mr. Carver's explicit instructions. He reached for a small digital recorder, its surface scratched like it had been used often. He set it gently on the table. My stepmother's face stiffened. What is that supposed to be? The lawyer pressed one button. A soft click, then static. My heart pounded as the room filled with the unmistakable sound of my father's voice. This is David Carver. If you are hearing this, it means Margaret has tried to silence my daughter. I froze, breath caught in my chest. My stepmother's hand slipped from her pen. The truth was unfolding, and it was only the beginning. The sound of my father's voice cracked something open in me. I remembered the contrast all too clearly. Before Margaret, Dad had been my anchor. He came to every debate tournament in high school, still wearing his work boots from the construction site, cheering louder than anyone else. When I was 19, he drove 6 hours overnight to help me move into my dorm, carrying every box up 4 flights of stairs himself. Then 3 years after Mom passed, Margaret appeared. Perfect hair, perfect nails, a smile that never quite reached her eyes. At first, I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. Dad deserved companionship. But soon patterns emerged. When I called, she answered more often than he did. He's busy, she'd say, her voice curt. At Thanksgiving, she seated me at the far end of the table, while her 2 sons sat pressed close to Dad. She made little jokes about me being the independent one. As though independence meant I didn't need love. By the time I was 25, Dad had started canceling our weekend plans more often. Margaret's not feeling well, he'd explain. Or, we already committed to something with her family. I told myself he was just trying to keep the peace. But peace always seemed to mean me stepping back. What's at stake now isn't only the $3.4 million estate, the house I grew up in, the cabin where Dad taught me to fish, the stocks he built over decades. It's also the truth of who he was. A father who loved me, even if she tried to edit me out of the picture. I knew my father. He'd never cut me out willingly. And hearing his voice on that recorder confirmed what I had always suspected. He saw her coming. He'd left breadcrumbs to protect me. I gripped the edge of the conference table, the leather cold under my fingers. For years I tolerated being treated like a guest in my own family. But the moment his voice filled that room, I realized he hadn't forgotten me. He prepared for this. The static cleared, and my father's voice grew stronger, steady as if he were sitting across from me. This is David Carver. If you are hearing this, Margaret is trying to contest or exclude my daughter Elena. Let me be clear. She is to inherit equally, and in certain matters exclusively. My stepmother shifted in her chair, her pearl earring catching the light as she turned sharply toward the lawyer. This is ridiculous, she snapped. You can't accept. But Dad's voice overrode hers. I have left documentation in a sealed folder at my attorney's office. Inside are 3 items. My updated will, a notarized letter, and bank account statements proving transfers I made for Elena's future. The accounts ending in 5619 and 7442 are in her name only. The lawyer reached into his case again and, with deliberate calm, produced a manila envelope stamped with a blue notary seal. The sound of it sliding across the polished wood was louder than my own heartbeat. I couldn't stop staring at the handwriting across the front. Bold black ink for Elena if disputed. The lawyer broke the seal and spread the documents. The first was the updated will, signed 6 months before my father died. His signature filled the bottom in familiar loops. Next was the letter, dated in neat script. Elena, if Margaret speaks first, trust that I knew this would happen. I touched the corner of the paper, the fibers rough against my fingertips. The last stack. Account statements, each page marked with his initials. I scanned the numbers. $275,000 in a trust. $420,000 in municipal bonds. A note in the margin read simply, "College fund became legacy." My stepmother's chair squeaked as she leaned forward, voice rising. This can't be valid. He was sick, he didn't know what he was signing. But the notary's seal was there, pressed deep into the paper. Proof you could feel with your thumb. I looked up, my throat tight but my resolve solid. This wasn't hearsay anymore. It was evidence. I made a choice. I would not let her bury this. The lawyer laid the papers in a neat stack and tapped his pen against the notary seal. The faint scratch echoed in the quiet room. "Mrs. Carver," he said evenly, "these are notarized, witnessed, and dated 6 months before David's passing. They are binding." My stepmother's lips thinned. He was confused. He wasn't himself at that time. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and shook his head. "No, ma'am. I met with him personally on September 14, 2022. He was clear, deliberate, and insisted on protecting Elena's share." He turned to me. "Elena, the trust account holds $275,000. The municipal bonds total $420,000. These are non-contestable. The updated will further secures your 50% of the estate, including the house and the lakeside cabin." The numbers rang in my ears like church bells. Not just money, security, memory, acknowledgement. I swallowed hard. So she can't take this away? Not unless a court invalidates a notarized will and a trust, which, he paused, flipping to the signatures, is highly unlikely. And frankly, the audio recording itself is extraordinary corroboration. Behind me, the wall clock clicked over to 11:47. The sound felt like a countdown ending. My stepmother's lawyer leaned in, whispering frantically in her ear. Her hand clenched around her pen until it nearly snapped. She hissed, "This isn't finished. I'll fight it." The lawyer beside me didn't flinch. He looked at me directly, voice firm. "You are on solid ground. Do not sign anything she presents. Every word, every signature your father left is ironclad." I ran my fingers along the edge of the letter, the rough paper grounding me. My father's handwriting stared back at me. "If Margaret speaks first, trust that I knew." For the first time that morning I believed him. The following week at 9:30 a.m. Sharp, we stepped into probate court. The room smelled of varnished oak and old paper, the kind of scent that clings to courthouse walls. My stepmother sat 2 rows ahead, her pearl earrings back in place, her attorney shuffling a stack of objections already outlined in neon tabs. My lawyer stood beside me, calm as stone. He carried the black envelope, the notarized documents, and a thumb drive containing the audio recording. When the judge called our case, her attorney launched straight in. Your Honor, the updated will cannot be trusted. Mr. Carver was ill and under influence. We asked the court to disregard it. The judge raised an eyebrow. Do you have evidence of incapacity? A pause. Then a weak. Not at this time. My lawyer stepped forward. Your Honor, we have more than speculation. We submit a notarized will dated September 14, 2022, witnessed by 2 independent parties. We also present a trust agreement, bank records, and an audio recording made by Mr. Carver himself, instructing that it be played in the event of contest. The courtroom hushed. The judge gestured. Play it. My lawyer pressed the small recorder. The static gave way to my father's voice. This is David Carver. If Margaret challenges, no, she does so against my wishes. My daughter Elena is to inherit equally. I trust her more than anyone. Gasps rippled through the gallery. I kept my eyes on my stepmother. For the first time, her confident posture cracked. She sank slightly into her chair, whispering frantically to her attorney. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Carver, did you know about this recording? Her mouth opened then shut. Her face flushed. My lawyer placed the notarized letter on the bench. Your Honor, we request that the court formally recognize the updated will and trust, and dismiss any objection as unfounded. The judge tapped her pen twice against the wood. Motion granted. The will stands. Contest dismissed. The lever had been pulled, and the quiet shock on my stepmother's face was worth more than any number on a balance sheet. By June, the ruling was finalized. The estate split exactly as my father intended. 50% to me, 50% to her. No loopholes, no delays. The trust and bond accounts transferred into my name within 10 business days. $695,000 secured with a single wire. The lake cabin deed too was refiled. Owner Elena Carver. I drove up to the cabin the next weekend. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, the same as when Dad taught me to bait a hook on the dock. For the first time in years, I unlocked the door without asking anyone's permission. Dust floated in the sunlight and I stood in the silence, letting it settle into my bones. It was mine and no one could take it now. Meanwhile, Margaret's veneer cracked. The country club dropped her membership after unpaid dues stacked past $12,000. Her oldest son moved out of her townhouse when she started borrowing against his account for legal costs. Word spread fast in our neighborhood. Even the realtor whispered when she listed her BMW for sale. At the courthouse, she tried one last plea. He promised me everything. The judge's reply was razor sharp. Promises don't override notarized wills. A week later, I met with the estate's accountant to sign the final documents. He slid the ledger across the desk, numbers neat in tidy columns. You're clear, he said. Everything designated to you has been transferred. Congratulations, Miss Carver. I nodded, the leather chair creaking beneath me. It's not about winning, I murmured. It's about my father's word being honored. He gave a small smile, tapping the column totals. And that word is now law. Walking out into the late summer heat, I felt lighter. The weight of doubt, of years of being pushed to the side, was gone. My stepmother could no longer rewrite the story. For the first time, I owed her nothing. It didn't end quietly. In early July, a thick envelope arrived by courier, her handwriting scrawled across the back. Final attempt. Inside was a typed letter on her attorney's letterhead, claiming that during Dad's illness he had made verbal promises of full financial support to her. She demanded an additional $250,000 in equitable compensation. I sat at my kitchen table, morning light cutting across the wood grain, the smell of fresh coffee grounding me. I read the letter twice, then opened the red folder I'd been keeping. Inside, I had copies of everything: the notarized will, the trust statements, and the transcript of the audio recording, my father's exact words. Her letter tried to stretch shadows into proof. Mine held daylight. I forwarded the package to my attorney with a single note. Respond factually. 2 days later, her lawyer received a curt reply. Every claim she raised contradicted signed documents, dated September 14, 2022. The letter ended with one line in bold. Any further unfounded demands will be treated as harassment. That evening, my phone lit up with her number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice shook with restrained fury. You've turned him against me, even in death. I steadied my tone. No. He turned the truth against you. I'm just carrying it forward. For a moment, all I heard was her breathing. Then the line went dead. The truth gap was sealed. Documents, signatures, recordings, all in alignment. No more room for her stories to slip through. I set the phone face down, exhaled, and for the first time in months, the silence felt whole. It's October now, 3 months since that last call. My days look ordinary, but the air feels different. In the mornings, I walk along the lakefront path, the water sharp blue under a cooler sky, and I breathe without that constant knot in my chest. My father's cabin is mine alone. I spent the summer repairing the dock, sanding the railings, cataloging his old fishing gear. Each nail I hammered felt like reclaiming a piece of memory. The estate lawyer's work is finished. The trust and bonds sit in a separate account, untouched except for the interest that accrues steadily each month. I track it, but I don't live off it. My consulting income covers my rent, groceries, and the new leather chair I finally bought for my home office. I've set rules, practical, simple, absolute. I do not answer letters unless they come stamped from court. I do not respond to calls that arrive late at night. I keep copies of every document in a fireproof box tucked under my bed. In 3 to 6 months, I plan to renovate the cabin kitchen, replace the warped linoleum with stone tile, maybe even host a weekend retreat for friends. The thought no longer feels like a dream but a plan. This afternoon, I sit at my dining table with a mug of tea. The steam curls against the window, blurring the city skyline. My father's handwriting stares at me from a framed page on the wall. If Margaret speaks first, trust that I knew. I choose to trust him. I choose to trust myself. The silence around me is steady. This is my life on my terms, and it finally feels enough.